Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. I think just taking over from where my colleagues ended, especially the colleagues dealing with economy, I want to bring to your attention that anywhere in the world, there's no possibility of economic growth if the population is sick, because an unhealthy workforce cannot drive the economy. Standard people who are standard economies. So when you listen to my colleague here, Comrade Mamuloko, talking about the economy, you then realize that it must be linked with both skills in education and health to produce a healthy nation. I'm sure many of you here are aware what HIV/AIDS nearly did to our country if we did not intervene. The level of absenteeism in the mines, in the schools, in the factories was overwhelming, but we have to put it under control. So that's why health issues are so important. Now, in dealing with them, we are simply guided, apart from resolutions, but in going on with our work, we are guided by the 6 building blocks of the World Organization. In simple language, we are very lucky in health because the WHO, the World Health Organization, which many of you started knowing of during the COVID era, has already declared that a health system anywhere in the world has got 6 building blocks. And countries must make sure that those 6 building blocks, which you may call pillars, they stand strong all the time. If any one of them is weak, the population will feel it. They won't know, of course, that is a building block. They won't know anything about that. Many don't know about World Organization, but something, they will feel that something is wrong or something is missing in their everyday life. So for that reason, we cannot make mistakes. The first building block is leadership and governance of the system. Who is leading healthcare, right from the clinic level, hospital level, and until. The second one is access to essential medicines and other commodities. You may remember a few weeks ago, there were problems in the Eastern Cape where they ran out of syringes and needles. Fortunately, it's corrected. People felt it. They didn't know that is one of the building blocks of the World Organization, but they felt that something is lacking in our system, which was causing problems. The third building block is the health workforce, which you commonly call human resources, because it is a problem all over the world. And the fourth one is health system financing. I'm going to be visiting this one before I sit down, because it's also very important. Health system financing is how you finance your health system in that country. We're not talking about the budget here. We're talking about financing the whole system in totality. The fifth is the health information system. You'll be surprised to know that in this world of extremely advanced technology, many countries are still suffering on the health information systems, which I'm also going to explain in a short while. And the last one is the health service delivery system. In what packages do you deliver health to members of the public? If I'm a woman and I'm pregnant, what can I expect from the health system? What's my package? How am I going to be taken care of until I deliver? And if I deliver a baby, that baby who's arriving in the world for the first time, what is there for this baby? What can the health system offer this baby so that the baby doesn't get stunted or is able to be a productive member of society? Now, those are the building blocks. Now, in the middle of these building blocks, I didn't put them in the order of importance, is health system financing, which has now become a very, very hot topic in South Africa. That's what we call NHI. health system financing as one of the pillars of the healthcare system. If it is not resolved, we will persistently and consistently feel that there's something wrong in our healthcare system. And we are doing so. So the resolution that has been taken is that we must move very fast to start putting together Section 57 of the NHI Act. Section 57 is about transitional mechanisms, preparing to put up committees, boards, etc. And there's a couple of them that we'll be dealing with. Now, I'll come back again to the issue of NHI, because at any rate, I know it's foremost in your mind. When you see me, the first question on your lips is about NHI. I know that. So I won't run away from it. That's why I'll put it up front. But I want to talk about the health information system, because I made a statement here that you'll be surprised to learn that in this fast, the world of artificial intelligence, etc., many countries are still struggling with the health information system. What actually do we mean? Just to give you a simple example, it happened to me 35 years ago. You'll be surprised to learn that it's still happening today, 35 years later. That's when HIV/AIDS was starting to manifest itself. I was running a practice in Skukuni. A gentleman entered my practice. After examining him, I concluded that he must be HIV positive. At that time, there was no rural facility that could even diagnose HIV, not to mention treating it. We just could not even diagnose it. What you used to do then, you apply to the bigger hospitals, which are all in Gauteng. In our case, it was the Den Garangua Hospital, which is George Mukari. If it's urgent, you get an ambulance immediately, you transfer them. If it's not urgent, you apply and wait for a response. So I applied, described the symptoms, my findings, and said, please take over. I suspect this person is HIV positive. The response came within 2 weeks. They said, this man is our patient, is already on treatment for HIV and AIDS. We don't know why you want to start from the beginning. But that was happening because there's no integrated health information system. So what am I talking about? Any patient, even now in modern day South Africa, you can move from facility to facility in the public sector, from facility to facility in the private sector, from facility to facility between the private sector and the public sector, from doctor to doctor. You can move to 10 of them. All of them are likely to do the same thing to you, because they simply won't know that this has already happened to you. There's no mechanism of knowing. And so that's why we want an integrated system. Now, fortunately, we have already gone to CSIR, because we argued that South Africa has got a lot of knowledge and facilities which can do these things. We have gone to CSIR to ask them to develop a homegrown system, because part of this problem is that there are many IT companies. Each one of them wants you to buy their product, and they'll tell you what it can do and all that, and you buy it, then another one comes. So we said, let's have a homegrown system, which is owned by us, which is open source, which nobody can claim. The CSIR has worked on it, health patient record system. We are now busy piloting it in the Free State. And just yesterday, we moved the pilot into a private practitioners to start including private practitioners around to see where we can integrate with them. So we are very happy about that piloting. And what we need to do is to accelerate it. Now, coming back to NHI, as I said, we are going to implement Section 57 immediately to make sure that we get going with transitional mechanism. But simultaneously, we are intending to run massive roadshows, workshops, and meet all the role players and relevant stakeholders to understand their concerns. The war that is raging about NHI, in it, you will never hear any person, whether in parliament or outside or in the healthcare system, who will say, I'm against universal health coverage. They'll all say we support universal health coverage, and then put a big but. And after that but, they will say no, in the form in which it is, in NHI, we cannot support it. So our job is going to find out exactly in what form do you want it. What is that which you think, if put on the table, then you'll go along with it, and for what reason? We need to start dialoguing. South Africa is known for dialogue. It is not helpful what has happened last week. I'm not sure whether it's Friday or what. I was addressing a conference of general practitioners and specialists in Durban, a very, very important body in health, and on Saturday. And I received lots and lots of WhatsApp messages, people asking me, because there is a health insurance company, I think it's Momentum Health, which produce figures that this NHI that they are talking about is going to cost 1.5 trillion rand. That is 3 times what the country is spending on healthcare at the moment, in both public and private. I found this extremely unfortunate, in very bad taste. It is quite disturbing. It doesn't build a nation, because all it does is to create fear and uncertainty, for people to live in fear. It's a scarecrow to scare them off that this system that the government wants to establish, it needs 1.3 trillion rand, which we do not have, of course. It's bigger than South Africa's budget. I found it quite unacceptable, and I think scaring people like that, to me, is tantamount to mathematical hooliganism, if you want to me to put it that way. It's some form of mathematical hooliganism, which an advanced country like ours should not be doing. Because I'll tell you, if maybe you think it's very complex, or I'm not very clear. Minister Kubai is a Minister of Human Settlement. Inside human settlement, there's a housing portfolio. If she announces that all South Africans must be housed, they must have a shelter, and a decent shelter, which she can, because it's part of constitutional rights of people. If she says so, then somebody rushes to Sandton or Constantia or Bantry Bay in Western Cape. I hope I got it correct. And look for the most expensive houses that are owned by billionaires, and take the price of that house and multiply by 61 and say, Minister Gubai, this is what he wants to give to you. Isn't that some hooliganism of some sort? Because the country will live in extreme fear and disturbance. It can't be accepted. Yes. That's why I'm using the word mathematical hooliganism, and I think I'm right. Because you can't do mathematics to scare people, and especially do mathematics in such a grossly wrong way. And why am I saying that? Who told them that in NHI, we're just going to say every South African must get health care and pay whatever amount, and the state pay whatever amount? Perhaps you may not understand me. Let me give you a very simple example. I like leading by simple examples. If you go to Soweto, or right here to Katlehong, or whatever township is there, and take your child for a circumcision from a GP, a qualified doctor who spent 6 years at medical school, they are going to do that circumcision and charge you 1,800 rand. That's what they will charge you. But if you go to a private hospital, you are going to pay between 15,000 rand and 18,000 rand. That's what's going to happen. Because what then they will do, they will look for a specialist, urologist. Because private hospitals are mostly run by specialists. They'll get a urologist. A urologist as a specialist has trained for 15 years to be where they are. When they say somebody is a specialist, from the day you enter medical school until we give you a title of a specialist, you have trained for 15 years. They are going to look for such a person. Secondly, they are going to look for a neurologist, another specialist who trained for 15 years. They be a urologist who trained for 15 years. Secondly, they will look for an anesthetist who must put you to sleep, which is completely unnecessary, completely, because circumcision are done under local anesthetic. But they will put you to sleep. The anesthetist is also a specialist who trained for 15 years. Then they will look for somebody who's an assistant to the urologist, who will be a junior doctor like me. When I say junior, somebody who passed MBCHB. They will all need their fees, and the hospital will need their fees. Why should we follow such a system? And that calculation is based on us following that type of those type of systems, which are very prevalent in our country, making healthcare unnecessarily very expensive. We won't follow that, obviously, but Momentum Life is assuming we'll do that. Secondly, they are assuming that when we introduce NHI, all the public facilities will be rendered irrelevant. Everybody will go to a private facility. What do I do with Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital? What do we do with Groote Schuur Hospital, Tygerberg, Charlotte Maxeke, all these huge hospitals in Gauteng, for instance, which is the biggest healthcare system in the whole continent? We just throw them away and say there's NHI, everybody must go private and go and pay 18,000 rand for a circumcision, and NHI will pay. That's not what we are going to do. So it is misleading people and it's unacceptable. On the issue of healthcare delivery system, I spoke about HIV and AIDS. We are following the 95, 95, 95. Up to so far, we have tamed HIV and AIDS. Life expectancy has gone high, especially for women. Maternal mortality and child mortality has markedly reduced, but by no means have we done away with NHI. Yes, and mother-to-child transmission is very low. I remember in 2004, 70,000 babies were born HIV positive every year by 2004. After putting up a massive prevention of mother transition program, by the time I left the Department of Health, there were only 6,000 who were born HIV positive. I don't know where it is now, they've not yet reported to me, but we want it to come to zero. So we want to look at a massive program on this issue of HIV and AIDS. Let me stop there and leave it to questions.
Yeah.